Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
Welcome to a new series we're calling OMG Monday. That's right. You get us maybe twice a week from here on out, if life cooperates and things go our way, and if there's anything in the news that's worth talking about that week, honestly. I do have to take a minute and give my 10-year-old credit for this idea, though. He thinks our WTF Wednesday episodes are hilarious and commented that we should have OMG episodes as well. And really, what's a better way to compliment OMG than with current happenings in the world of true crime?
You're not wrong. These bite-sized episodes may be short in length, but they're going to be jam-packed with content. The true crime headlines seem to be never-ending, so we're going to highlight a handful of them every Monday. Maybe. We'll see. But it's a great way to fill you in on new happenings or updates on ongoing cases. I'm Amber.
And I'm Gina.
So let's dive into the cases that had us saying OMG this week.
The first current event we want to cover is pretty massive. An arrest was made in the murder of Tupac Shakur. If you, dear listener, were a 90s kid like us, you likely recall the tragic shooting death of Tupac, which occurred after he attended a boxing match in Las Vegas in September of 1996. At that time, it was widely believed by many that this incident was a result of the ongoing conflict within the rap and gang scene between the East Coast and West Coast. The rumor gained even more momentum when, just 6 months later, in March of 1997, Biggie Smalls met a similar tragic fate. So needless to say, millions of people were audibly gasping when the news dropped last week that an arrest had been made in the 27-year-old unsolved case.
I did a double take.
I was like,
wait, what?
What? Oh my God.
What decade are we in?
I never thought that would happen, ever. It was crazy.
Dwayne Keith Davis, also known as Keithy D, was arrested and indicted on charges of murder with the use of a deadly weapon. He is the only suspect still alive in connection with Tupac's murder, and only one of 2 witnesses still alive, the other being the record producer who was driving Tupac when he was killed. Davis isn't an unknown name when it comes to the murder, though. He's been boasting about his connection to Tupac's death since 1998, when he told a cable channel that he was a front seat passenger in the car from which another passenger fired the shots that killed him. As far as why he was involved in the murder, well, according to police, he's the guy who made it happen.
The night it all went down, Tupac had attended a Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand with Marion Suge Knight, who was the then CEO of Death Row Records. Tupac and Suge Knight were affiliated with the mob Piru gang in Compton. Well, Dwayne Davis and his nephew, Orlando Anderson, also attended the match that night and were affiliated with another Compton gang, the Southside Crips. After the event was over, Tupac and Suge spotted Anderson and decided to jump him. They repeatedly punched and kicked him. The whole thing was caught on the hotel's security camera. When Davis found out that his nephew had been attacked, he decided retaliation was in order.
According to Davis, he got a gun from an associate and jumped into a white Cadillac with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson. Davis told police that he gave the gun to the passengers in the back seat, and the quad tracked down Shakur and Suge Knight in the infamous black BMW. Shakur was shot 4 times and died in the hospital 6 days later. According to the indictment, DeAndre Smith and Orlando Anderson were the back passengers in the Chrysler at the time of the shooting. Neither is named as the shooter, and Orlando Anderson denied involvement in the killing before his own gang-related death in 1998.
Davis confessed to having a role in the shooting in 2009, but charges could not be brought against him because it was made during a proffer agreement, which is when a suspect agrees to provide potentially useful information, but the statements cannot be used against the suspect, which is super fucking questionable, but okay. On Honestly, it seems like he has had no problem admitting to his involvement in Tupac's murder, and police more than likely knew he was their main suspect. They just needed enough evidence to nail him down before issuing the arrest. Better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean,
It's still crazy to me that they finally arrested someone in connection with his murder. And there was another article that I read that I didn't get into because this is supposed to be bite-sized that says they do think there is a connection between Tupac's murder and Biggie Smalls' murder. Still, even with this new information that's been given to the public,
connection that everyone thought had been there is still
there, just maybe in a different way. So it'll be interesting to maybe dive into that at another date, at least for my personal interest. But yeah, moving on.
Oh, man. We haven't mentioned her on this show yet, and we will more than likely cover the case at some point, but it's time to talk about Taylor Schabusiness. The 25-year-old was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole on September 26, 2023, for the outrageously brutal murder of her boyfriend, Shad Therian, in February 2022. Not only was she given life without parole, but an additional 7.5 years for mutilating a corpse and 3 years for third-degree sexual assault.
Her defense attorney, Christopher Froelich, intends to appeal the court's decision because he feels that Schabusiness should be given a chance at the possibility of extended supervision or parole after decades of work, like therapy or counseling. Froelich took over the task of defending Schabusiness after she attacked her previous attorney, Quinn Jolly, in court in February of this year. Froelich tried several times to get a mistrial in the case due to the judge witnessing the attack and another instance where Schabusiness tried to flash the judge in the courtroom, probably due to the possibility of her behavior swaying the judge's opinion of how she should be convicted. I mean, I don't think that that's really going to have that much impact on her conviction, given everything she had already done up to that point. But
Froelich, who has affectionately nicknamed Schabusiness Lady Dahmer, said in an interview that she showed a much different side when looking at old pictures of herself with her family before her meth addiction took over her life, and that she deserves to be happy. This is the same woman who has a picture of herself before the murder, standing with a photo of Jeffrey Dahmer and smiling. Drug addiction can definitely influence a person to do things they wouldn't normally do, but it's hard to say if she deserves a chance for freedom or happiness after what she did to Shad Therian. Crazy pants.
I would be curious to know. She's fucking crazy. I would be curious to know what the listeners think. Does she actually deserve a chance? And should we cover this one? Because I've gone back and forth on it. It definitely fits into the weird true crime.
It's intense, though.
It's very intense. We would have to mentally prepare ourselves for that one, for sure.
Ugh.
We have one more story for you today, and it's another crazy morgue story. Awesome. 115 decomposing bodies were found in a green funeral home in Penrose, Colorado. According to the Associated Press, investigators haven't given a ton of detail about what was discovered inside the Return to Nature funeral home, but we do know that they plan to bring in response teams that normally deal with plane crashes and coroners from other jurisdictions to help sort through the gruesome scene. The owner of the funeral home, John Halford, tried to conceal the improper storage of the corpses and claimed to be doing taxidermy inside the facility.
The funeral home's registration has been expired since November of 2022, but he was still accepting bodies and charging customers $1,895 for natural burials and had been offering cremations until July of this year. Deputies discovered the nightmarish scene after reports of a suspicious incident on October 3rd and returned the next day with a warrant to search the property. The bodies were inside of a 2,500 square foot building that appeared to be a standard one-story home. The funeral home performed burials without metal caskets or embalming fluids, offering biodegradable options, shrouds, or nothing at all. Green burials are legal in Colorado, but state code requires that any body not buried or cremated within 24 hours must be properly refrigerated.
Neighbors had been catching whiffs of a putrid smell for the past several weeks, but just assumed it was a dead animal. Of course, processing a scene like this and identifying all of the bodies will take a long time. Families that use the funeral home have been told to contact investigators, and as you can imagine, the situation is rebooting the grieving process for many people in the area. Mary Simons, whose husband Daryl died in August of this year after a battle with lung cancer and pneumonia, hired the funeral home to cremate him. Needless to say, the ashes never arrived. She told reporters that she had finally begun to turn the corner on the grieving process, only to feel like it's starting all over again.
So she never got his ashes and she just let it go?
Or maybe
why?
she was trying to contact him. I don't know. I think the article also stated that the line was disconnected, and so nobody was answering a phone or responding to messages.
She was just shut out and literally had no recourse or anything.
Mm-hmm. And he had written a letter to the funeral home, the overseers of all the funeral homes or whatever it's called, basically saying that he needed help or he was dealing with a situation. From what it sounds like, he didn't even have any sort of refrigeration in the funeral home. And these bodies were just all over this house. Yeah.
Oh, that's...
That definitely beats the other Morgue story by a mile.
I mean, that one's pretty bad. I mean, body parts and buckets and heads sewn onto other bodies, but yeah, these poor people are just left there to...
And they paid money for this man to take care of their loved ones, and he just let them rot in this house.
Why do people suck?
That is so fucked up.
Well,
yeah.
I can't think of a creepier story to end our first OMG Monday episode. Why? Why are there so many cases like this involving morgues or funeral homes? Respect the dead, people.
Yeah.
Anyway, give us your thoughts on these bite-sized stories on our socials. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Weird True Crime. See a news headline we should cover? Email it to us at weirdtruecrime@gmail.com.
We hope that you are as excited as we are about this new series. See y'all again in a couple days with another Wicked Wednesday for Spooky Month.
Yay.
Stay safe.
And make good choices. Toodles.
See ya.